What's happening? I promised a video when I made a short as an announcement about narcissistic psychopathic abuse, and we can speak of it from different angles, right? So on my channel I started out speaking about it from different perspectives. We can speak of it from a spiritual perspective when we say that these people have a certain demonic aura and influence nature about them. When we describe them using spirits like Luciferian spirit, Leviathan spirit for narcissists and covert narcissists, or we use the Jezebel spirit to describe it. But you can translate just the same point of view using psychotherapeutic, psychoanalytic language and understand the basics that create these impressions by explaining it with, let's say, the dual mothership model created by Professor Sam Vaknin, who also claims that narcissism is created through the repression of shame in early childhood by not good enough parenting. In psychopathy, scientists believe there is a genetic disposition, but it gets triggered also through traumatic experiences in the life of the psychopath, and it can be dormant. In other words, it can be overwritten by good parenting or good circumstances, so it does not necessarily have to show up. Okay. But I have a third version that I announced, and that is just explaining it in common words. And you know what I'm saying, I gotta tell the kids they have to be a little bit quiet. So in regular words, not spiritual, not in psychotherapeutic language, we need to understand is about identity, power, and influence. So I believe, by the way, when I speak about the high-functioning psychopath on one side of the spectrum, the cluster B spectrum, or the DSM-5, and the covert narcissist on the other side, I believe these are the cornerstones of evil, and you'll find everything within this spectrum. So we have the high-functioning psychopath here, and we have the covert malignant narcissist here, and in between there is the whole spectrum, all right? So that covers it all up, basically. So I said it's about power, identity, and influence. So these people lack identity. They don't have this naturally emerging constant identity core, to diverge to psychotherapeutic language for a second, but identity, all right? Yeah. So in other words, if we speak about the psychopath, you need to understand they are goal-driven. To understand the psychopath, you need to understand goal-driven and power. Okay, it's simply power. What they need is power, and they need the power to get their goals because they are goal-driven. Period. For the covert narcissist, you need to understand a lack of identity Basically, narcissism is also a compensatory mechanism for the absence of identity. To understand the covert narcissist, you need to understand they have no identity. They run away from their identity. They constantly need a new identity, okay? They lost it in childhood, and since then they run away from it. And you need to understand envy, malicious envy. In other words, when the covert narcissist sees a person and qualifies for the predatory, parasitic scheme, this person becomes targeted and needs to be removed, because in a fantasy, the narcissist wants to take this place, switch the place, and then he becomes this person. He will have the same friends, get the same reward, will live the same life, will finally become a whole person. That's the fantasy of them. So if you want to understand the narcissist, you need to understand delusion and fantasy. They can only act based on that. They basically do act only based on that, so you don't reach them. You don't talk to a person that sees you the same way as a person. You talk to a person that is living and acting in a self-absorbed delusional fantasy, and you are part of the delusional fantasy. In other words, you are the introject. You are introjected by the narcissist, and if your real self diverges, is not compliant with this fantasy, they try to force you to be that what they want you to be. This frustrates them. This creates anger. This creates even more envy, because this person is really real, and leads to a lot of problems, right? So to get it back to the rather understandable, simplified way, not spiritual, not spirits, not psychologic, not bad object, dead mother, introject, no, away from this. Alright, not the repressed shame and repressed anxiety, no. Identity, power, influence. That's what drives them. Okay, so there are differences, of course, in the covert narcissist and the high-functioning psychopath. The psychopath is high-functioning. The narcissist is not functioning, victimhood mentality. But they lack an identity that is constant, with a backbone, with consistent argumentation, with a consistency that comes from life itself, from investing in life itself, from investing in life, all right? Yeah, so therefore they have to weave narrations, they have to steal identity, they have to do what they are doing. Of course it does not work, and of course it needs constant consumption of identity, of people. So the psychopath is kind of weaving narrations and identity for them by managing, by creating facades, by creating narrations. And the psychopath is very well aware of reality. Therefore, is more surgical, less delusional, and can adjust on the fly. Both need preparation. The better they are prepared, the better they can get their goals. But the narcissist is not goal-driven, but driven to get attention, and is always chasing this shadow of identity that he cannot hold. They can't hold identity. It's like a cup. And when you power in this identity that they are after, it just vanishes, because the cup is a bottomless pit. Okay, so you might often have the uncanny feeling of understanding which kind of person the narcissist is just imitating when they're acting out. Acting out means they are constantly on this script that the fantasy writes for them. They are serious about this, but when you look through it, they become avoidant and hateful towards you, because you're crashing the shared fantasy, the fake identity. So internally, within the narcissistic family cult, there are moments where the narcissist can believe his own self-deception, his own lie. They might use substances to do this. They might use a very closed, very safe environment. So one of the 4S of narcissistic supply is safety. They need the safety to act like a clown that is all full of makeup and try to imitate another person, but they cannot be interrupted by people who can see through this with reality testing, because then it all crashes down and their identity dissolves and they get dysregulated, okay? And yeah, the psychopath is creating on the outside of the cult, creates identity through narration, through representation, through micromanaging relationships. All right. And they are masters of control. They need control. They rather break something down and kill it before they lose control. They also have this first strike mentality. They always have to do the first strike. They rather kill something instead of risking to lose control over it. So the psychopath is in control, also over all covert narcissists, okay? They control them. They provide them with the 4S. The covert narcissist cannot extract the 4S. And what connects them is sadism, by the way. So it's service, safety, and supply. Part of it can be sadistic, and this connects psychopath and covert narcissist. They're very excited to the point of, it seems to be like a arousal, a strange arousal, when other people have strong emotional reactions. This is what they're after. This is what they consume. This is what they feed off. Yeah. And again, it's about identity. It does not come effortless to them, right? They need to create it actively all the time. They need to be prepared. The psychopath needs a strategy to craft it, to build it. And it consists around the goals, the goal-drivenness, and power, the influence, and the control. The covert narcissist needs the safety to create this fantasy and acts based on it. And it's also about attention. But you need to understand, the covert narcissist loves all forms of attention, and sometimes I have the impression even rather prefers negative attention. He wants others to be hateful on him and envious on him as well. And I believe this is rooted in the childhood experience, when mother trained him to only get attention when he does something very wrong, and this induces the shame in the child, that it gets so much that the child represses the shame. But the child is at the same time trained to always do shameful things and fail. So it gets the attention again, okay? But it's proud on it, because now it gets the attention for a shameful thing. But to witness this is very counterintuitive and crazy making, because you think, why is this person proud? Why is this person kind of predicting his own failure all the time? Why is this person has this victimhood mentality, but is hyper competitive at the same time? And then why is the person proud of these things that should be shameful. So it's very crazy making, right? And counterintuitive. Yeah, and the psychopath is rather detached of this. Is strategic, is constantly gazing, is, you know, you rather understand a psychopath when you have no goodwill towards the person, stay reserved, observe the person. By the way, you need to observe both persons for a long time. They are like sleepers. The bad side only comes out after years sometimes. So they want to make you jump in quickly in the boat by idealizing, love bombing, and pretend to be harmless, by resembling childlike qualities to cling onto your parental reflexes and make you trust them because they are so harmless. They are like innocent children or harmless, frustrated, incapable children, but they are just parasitic predators waiting for a person to parent them and then, yeah, abuse them in different ways. Yeah, I think I just lost a little bit my point, but I hope you got the message. And again, it's about, it's kind of, you could describe it as an identity disturbance or a lack of identity, and therefore it must forcefully, competitively create it constantly, because for them identity is a consumption good that needs constantly to be consumed and recreated, and recreated is like a machinery. All right, therefore coercion is necessary, therefore the cult must be closed. The cult must be closed because the fantasy of the narcissist will crumble if it is exposed, it's not genuine. And the psychopath needs the cult to be closed because the outside narration is this pseudo-mutual family, the everything is perfect, everything is beautiful and inviting and free, everything is perfect, right? So they need the preparation and open the door strategic when they have the preparation. But when you just come in anytime unprepared, you have a chance to see the reality of this, but the cult is not designed to show the core of it, the shared malignant fantasy about power, control, grandiosity, stuff like that. Understand this.